nationalised company ownerships worldwide, so public corporations. And part of the difficulty is it's very difficult to see who owns, what company owns what company, because they're all a series of companies in Greece may be owned by a series of companies in Croatia, who are in turn owned by companies in Germany, who are, etc., etc., etc. So to get a clear visibility who owns what is actually quite difficult. So this team used a methodology to, if you like, analyze databases, and there was a lot of number crunching in these databases, but eventually they came up with a paper which provided ownership list of the companies right at the very top of the pyramid, so to speak. And what was very interesting is the top, I think they provided a list of about 100 companies. The top 50 companies are all the major banks in the world. And right up at the top of that is Barclays Bank.
Wow. Okay.
Just on this exact issue that you asked, if national fiat money became issued by government, not by private banks as debt with interest, we would still need complementary currencies, because, okay, we would remove some of the destructive aspects of the current system, but then we would also then rely on our new purchasing power through government spending and government decisions. And that is a centralization of power which many people would begin to question, and rightly so. So rather than saying that that's not the answer, it's part of the answer, but also complementary currencies, which therefore allow means of exchange to be issued by communities and freely by private enterprises, their own self-issued credit. And there's a sense here that issuing currency is one of our many freedoms which we need to reclaim. So not only do we need to confront and change this non-reserve banking system we have, but also, even if we're successful with that, we will need complementary currencies, and not just need them, it should just be our right.
Yeah, thank you. Good point. Great.
I have one question to both our speakers, which will probably conclude today's session. We had an interesting discussion about this yesterday in the bus with Michael Hudson. The question is, when you are designing currency, or when you are starting a new project to revive the local community, like it's in Kenya, what steps should you take to make the currency acceptable by a wide and comprehensive variety of agents, to create that kind of self-sustainable ecosystem, so it circulates without special artificial support? Irving Fisher put it simply: the state should take it as a payment for tax, but it's too easy. Yes, for us it's what they do, but for private-based currency projects, this option is unavailable. So, is there any universal algorithm for that, or some principle that every currency designer should know? This is for both speakers.
Well, I think the first thing is, and people are extremely sensitive, about money, and that's, people talk is easy, but then when you start getting to the parting with money bit, oh, you want me to put down €1,000? Well, straight away, talk goes out the window, and it's really focused on the value. So it needs, you have to communicate, and you have to, we're working with various communities to implement the scheme, but we can't be the implementers ourselves. We can only facilitate. So we have, the communities themselves have to take ownership of the implementation, first of all, so that they have to have a clear reason why they are doing this, what values they're trying to bring about, and why it is a good, why it is a good idea to do it. Because, and they have to, they have to go through all the challenges You have to bring them through all the challenges. But I mean, it's a community who are doing it. We see it as a currency design. We're bringing, if you like, the experience of currency design and helping them to implement their own system. I don't know if that answers.
Well, actually, the question was, sorry, it's time. The question was, for example, for Brixton Pound, they offer 11 Brixton Pounds for 10
Yes.
British Pounds. For different schemes, schemes based on quick profit, like pyramids and so on, which effectively operate with their own internal currency, they just offer high interest, high yield per every currency unit. So you get $1 today and tomorrow it becomes $2. That's the initiative. The question is, are there any principles to provide everybody with initiatives so they accept this currency, even without the need for a state to take it as a tax payment?
I think people need to see that it is backed by readily liquidatable value. For example, if a shop were to issue currency-backed system, that somebody could go into the shop at any time without any conditions that were clearly defined, understanding, and could redeem goods to the value, the face value of the note at any time.
So they must be redeemable for some physical asset.
A physical asset, yeah. That they can translate it into goods and services of that value.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with what Peter just said. I think that when you start off, I think it was said yesterday or at some point during the conference, that when you start off with having a currency backed by a current national currency, then you do provide some kind of reassurance to people's concerns that this is something real, as they might think of it, and because it's exchangeable international money. As for the secret code or the algorithm, that's a more difficult question because each place requires different contextual considerations, especially when you're working in very foreign environments such as rural Kenya. However, what I would say is that you really need a strong circuit made up of as local as possible producers and suppliers of local goods. So for example, where I live in a very rural place and mostly farming communities, and people produce a lot of their own food. And food is very much a type of wealth, you can even call it money. It's something that everybody needs, it's absolutely vital. Now because the supply of these fruits and vegetables in the area is very local, you can create a circuit made up of businesses which use local suppliers, and the circuit can be strong because people don't need to exchange out of the local currency to purchase something from Japan or France or wherever it may be. So for example, if you have a circuit made up of traders, and those traders trade in televisions made in Taiwan, you then have an issue because the trader may be able to accept the currency in part to pay for, say, staff salaries, but the rest it needs national money, or it would need to exchange back into national money. And at that point, you have a small break in the circuit because it's necessary to exchange out of the local currency.
We get same balance of payments deficit problem.
Yes, yes.
Could I just
local level.
Sorry, no,
Please, John.
I think I was first. Sorry. Oh, you didn't see me.
Sorry.
Sorry, on this point.
Yeah, I think this is.
Sorry, but please be short, Jim.
Yeah. Okay. You can go first. We can try it afterwards.
Okay. Very quickly, there's evidence on this. It's not hypothetical. So, for example, you asked about what works in terms of getting people engaged in these things. So, you mentioned Brixton Pound. Brixton Pound is an example of it not working. Now, the spin is that it does, but they spent about 200,000 real pounds on a currency which failed, which was relaunched in September, in which the new system shows £20,000 of transactions last time I looked. Okay, so the problem, if you create a currency where people must buy into it with national money, means that you have to have a lot of effort put into saying, why should you do this? Now, there's a very different approach, which is mutual credit, which is totally self-issued. And so you don't need to have enough spare cash to buy into it. Therefore, you don't have to be a middle-class environmentalist or sort of a local city nationalist to buy into it. You can be just basically in need of a new means of exchange.
Yeah.
So in Greece, for example, the currencies that are being created right now are mutual credit, and they are thriving because people do not have spare euros. So the idea of buying into a currency with any spare euros, if you're poor, is insane. So we need to look at what's actually working. And so we can hypothesize that it's nice to have things backed, but if you haven't got money, why would you participate in it? So I would say look at what's actually happening and the data that's out there. And so we with Community Forge are arguing for mutual credit, because it's not about communities either take ownership or take control. That again, that's a mindset of us reaching out with our, and asking for funds from some body to then reach out. Absolutely not. That's not our approach. We respond to community need. It's them who want to create the currency because of their own situation, and then we will help them do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I could just respond. The big problem is lack of liquidity, and that's the problem we have to solve, and it is by issuing IOUs basically.
Yes.
Well, we can take advantage of that there is so few people in this room, and we can continue discussion almost with the same level of efficiency on the coffee break. So at this point, thank you very much, but I have to let the session closed, and see you in 15 minutes when we will have in the main hall after coffee break, when we will have a session with Richard Werner, Poverty, Shen Turnbull, and Nick Dougherty and Joseph Zituli, authors of Energy-Backed Currency Tech.